Hey everybody, what is going on? Maxx here, got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more Lunalight action. This first duel is going to be up against Tenpai. Even though we lost the coin flip, we were made to go first. Which told me my opponent was of course going to be on a going second deck. I kind of thought based on their profile picture that, or their icon rather, that it was going to be, you know, Mikonko, but either way, we're definitely going to lead with the Masquerade here, dumping the Silver Hound to summon the Gold Leo. I'm going to add the Kaleido Chick and get rid of this extra Fuelos, and then dump the Black Sheep. That way I can add it off the Gold Leo, was my plan, until my opponent activated the Ghost Spell. Of course, here we do have the Called By, but if I didn't have Call By, I would still be able to use the Lunalight Fusion in order to be able to set up the Perfume Dancer and still be able to make some amount of plays here. But you definitely need access to the ability to fuse, which can often be Lunalight's greatest choke point, is the access to that polymerization. So now we can use polymerization to fuse the Gold Leo and the Kaleido Chick into the Lunalight Perfume Dancer. We get to go Perfume Dancer effect in order to, of course, add the perfume, and then Kaleido Chick can wheel the polymerization back to our hand. The Masquerade could have done that as well, but in order to get the full effect, we would have also had to have discarded a card, and I also want to potentially save the Masquerade Fusion for later. Alright, this time we're going to use Kaleido Chick to send the Leo Dancer after we revive it off the perfume, resummon it thanks to the Perfume Dancer, which means we can use it yet again to dump yet another Lunalight monster to our graveyard, the Yellow Marten this time, which has the potential to revive itself. Okay, now I'm going to make the Cross Sheep. We're going to go for the Lunalight Wolf and then activate here, but our opponent's going to activate Dominus Impulse. Now here I can use the Silver Hound in order to negate, but because I lost my Perfume Dancer, I'm not going to have enough materials in order to be able to make two Liger Dancers. I only get to make one here. Also, of course, the other big drawback is that we're not going to be able to have the Silver Hound live going into our opponent's turn. But I can still revive Kaleido Chick with the Cross Sheep here and make the SP Little Knight as well. Now here my opponent's going to try to Nibiru us after I use the Little Knight to banish the Impulse out of their graveyard. But I can just chain the Little Knight, target itself, and the Liger Dancer. Now, Liger Dancer will be unaffected, so only the Little Knight will get banished out. But of course, the Nibiru won't actually resolve at all as a result of the Liger Dancer being the only monster on the field. The reason for this being, if we take a look at Nibiru's text, it says, you contribute as many face-up monsters on the field as possible, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand, then summon a Primal Being token. So since Liger Dancer was the only monster on the field and it didn't get tributed, nothing was tributed, so we were then, or they rather, were then not able to special summon the Nibiru or the token. And sure enough, my opponent is realizing that they are not able to push through my Liger Dancer, and they are going to concede and give us the win. Yeah, I mean, this is something we've definitely discussed at length before when we covered Lunalight, but it's something that has remained very, very true, and a lot of the reason why the deck is still really, really good right now in Master Duel in particular. And that's because, especially in a best-of-one format, if you can just stick one Liger Dancer, often that'll be enough to get your opponent to concede, because a lot of decks don't natively play an out to the Liger Dancer. Tenpai definitely being one of those, because all of their board breakers are going to very much rely on effects that destroy, or remove, or bounce, and of course Liger Dancer is immune to all of that. Alright, there is the first duel. Let's take a look at the next one. Okay, this one's going to be a going second game against Sulfachord Yummy. I've been seeing a lot more Sulfachord Yummy around lately. I think a lot more people are starting to appreciate just how good the deck is, myself included, as someone who's only just now starting to appreciate it. I definitely slept on the deck pretty hard when it first came out. Okay, so they're going to go for the Time Maiden Special Summon and then activate Sulfachord Happiness. That'll let them add a couple of monsters and then summon the Kulia, or sorry, not Kulia, Primoa. Now, one thing you might be wondering is, Hex, why have you not activated Maxx C at this point? Your opponent is now special summoned 2 times, and it's kind of just burning a hole in your hand. Well, that's because I'm actually not going to Maxx C them. I'm going to Droll and lock them as soon as the Primoa starts to try to activate here. With a hand like this, I'm looking at, you know, what I've got, and I don't really think I necessarily need more draws. I would much rather stop them from searching, because I know that Sulfa Chord does that a lot. In fact, not only does the Primoa that got summoned search, but the Fuchsia that they also just tried to summon also would have searched. This Link 2 also searches. So by keeping them off of the searches, as you can see, we are severely limiting what the Sulfa Chord engine is able to put out here. They're not even going to be able to access Yummy Plays right now. Alright, they're going to pen to scale one of the Sulfa Chords to add the Fuchsia, linking off the Time Maiden. Here is the Link Creamo. Now they could do Yummy Plays, but even if they go for Cups of Yummy Way, they're not going to be able to actually add anything, of course, thanks to Droll and Lockbird. Again, I'm very glad that I activated Droll instead of Maxx C here. Now, granted, I could have still chained Maxx C, right, to like the happiness and gotten a draw, but Maxx C is such a powerful card, and I really would just rather hold on to it. Like, if somehow my opponent's able to stop all of my plays here, I'd rather have Maxx C going into their next turn, right? I'm not scared of the Link 3 here either, by the way, because while it does have a negate, they have to special summon a Sulfa Chord with an odd pendulum scale, and if we look, Fuchsia has an even pendulum scale, meaning the negate is not live. All they have is Link Creamo plus whatever happens to be in hand. I'm going to try to lead with Tenki, but that one card in hand ends up being Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. But that's totally fine, we still have plenty of other options in our hand here. We're going to go Lunalight Black Sheep, discard to add the Polymerization, and my plan was to actually summon Kaleidochick and start setting up the graveyard, but I realized that, like, right after my opponent conceded, that was a huge misplay. What I should have done is just activated Polymerization, used Wolf and Kaleidochick from my hand, then I could have summoned Perfume Dancer, added Perfume, Perfume revives Kaleidochick, right? Then we can use Perfume to discard Maxx C and add another Lunalight monster that we could then normal summon. Like Gold Leo to add and then discard Hound. Hound would get another summon, you know, etc., etc. That would have been the actual way to do it. I did misplay by normal summoning the Kaleidochick. Thankfully, my opponent conceded immediately afterwards, so it didn't really matter. Yeah, Lunalight can be a very difficult deck, and I definitely have a replay that highlights that for sure. Alright, this game is going to be up against Centurion, a deck I actually haven't seen in a hot minute, but yeah, no, like I said, Lunalight is actually a really difficult deck to pilot a lot of the time. I think because the deck has so many moving pieces, right? And it's a very fluid combo deck. It's not rigid. What I mean by that is that you can kind of, in a lot of scenarios, just activate your Lunalight effects in any order, just about any order, and still achieve at least one Liger Dancer. But of course, it's going to all come down to what your hand looks like and how well you're able to navigate that. Now here we're going to get hit with the Fulos in response to Silverhound. We're going to go Yellow Martin and Gold Leo effects here. We're just going to chain Droll and Lockbird, however. So we're not going to be able to actually search anymore this turn. They won't get to draw off Fulos either, but the not searching really does affect us. Gonna normal summon Kaleidochick, dump a Panther Dancer, activate Lunalight Fusion. My intention here was to go for a Leo Dancer. If I couldn't end on the Liger Dancer, I still wanted to be able to end on the Leo Dancer. That's why I play a single copy of Panther Dancer in my extra deck for this exact scenario. You can send it with Kaleidochick, and then if you only have 3 materials, Leo Dancer might not be quite as good as Liger Dancer, but it's still effectively a Towers, and it does still have some kind of a board wipe. It's got a battle, which makes it a lot weaker, but again, at the very least, it can't be destroyed or targeted by card effects. Unfortunately, Ash Blossom is able to negate the Lunalight Fusion, so here I have to just set the Imperm and then pass. Alright, they're going to go normal summon Trudea for the Primera. I'm going to save the Imperm for the Primera, so we're going to fire it off right now. And we still have the Silverhound in our graveyard as well. I could have used Silverhound against the Primera back row effect, but I decided to save it for whatever extender they had. And sure enough, they have the field spell here for follow-up. They're going to activate the effect, discarding Atri. I'm going to wait until they send and pay the cost, and then I'll negate with the Silverhound. Alright, so they're going to activate Deck Lockdown. It's going to continue to prevent me from being able to search cards like that Droll last turn did. and unfortunate as I top deck Black Sheep here. However, I can still make some plays. I'm going to summon Yellow Marten by bouncing Masquerade. Now I can Masquerade dump Wolf, and now I'm going to use the Gold Leo to add the Lunalight Wolf back to my hand. Now I have the ability to summon Liger Dancer without having to actually search. I'm going to go Kaleido Chick, I'm going to send the Leo Dancer. They're going to activate the Trudea effect in order to be able to make a Legatia here. The Legatia that they're about to Synchro Summon will destroy my Kaleido Chick, but that doesn't matter because Leo Dancer's already in my graveyard. Alright, so I'm going to push that into the back row, and here is where I made my huge misplay. I activated the effect of Lunalight Wolf without enough materials to fuse, which actually I did at the moment think that I had enough materials because I'm like, what's going on? I have Black Sheep in hand, why can't I? But this is where the Yu-Gi-Oh! Classic problem of not reading comes in. Lunalight Wolf can only banish materials from the field or graveyard. Now here's the real kicker. I have my normal summon. If I had simply normal summoned the Black Sheep, I could have activated Wolf and actually fused for Liger Dancer here. Unfortunately, because I misplayed, I'm only able to go for Perfume Dancer. And I don't think that's going to be enough here because I can't search off the Perfume Graveyard effect, and reviving the Kaleido Chick or whatever it is in my graveyard is not going to be enough. So really unfortunate. That should have been a really clutch win that I fumbled right at the end. Again, Lunalight's a hard deck, and it definitely has a lot of moving parts and different small effects you have to keep in mind. Alright, I've got one more game for us to finish off with. And this last game is going to be against K9 Vanquish Soul. We're going to be going first, but we're going to be navigating some turn 0 plays from our opponent, which is pretty much par for the course when you're up against this deck. Alright, so we've got Tenki and then Foolish Burial for backup here as well. We're going to lead with the Fire Formation Tenki, activate in order to add the Gold Leo. We're going to normal summon Gold Leo and activate to add, and then discard the Silver Hound. Silver Hound effect is going to activate, but here's where our opponent's going to throw out the K9 Izanagi. Now, thankfully, we have the Dominus Impulse in hand, which is not only good against Izanagi in the fact that it doesn't trigger it because it's a trap card, but of course, when the Lupus tries to summon itself, we can simply activate the Impulse and then negate that effect. So no rank 5 on our turn here. We're going to activate the Kaleido Chick, dumping Black Sheep. Now we can use Gold Leo to add back the Black Sheep, but our opponent's going to use DD Crow to banish it. Now, as mentioned before, this can be a little bit rough if you're trying to add polymerization, which this deck really needs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate Foolish Burial, dumping Yellow Marten. Now I can use Yellow Marten in order to add Lunalight Fusion. I can also use Yellow Marten to bounce Kaleido Chick and then summon herself. Now I'm going to activate Lunalight Fusion using the Emerald Bird in my hand with the Gold Leo on field. This Emerald Bird is about to be super important as I summon the Perfume Dancer. We can add Perfume, and Emerald Bird can also summon the banished Black Sheep. So we're going to add the Lunalight Perfume. Now we can activate Perfume Dancer, bouncing the Black Sheep back to hand and then summoning Kaleido Chick. Now, not only can I discard Black Sheep for polymerization, but I can still go Kaleido Chick effect in order to dump another Lunalight card to my graveyard. Here I'm going to use the Lunalight Fusion to add the Wolf. We're going to go Kaleido Chick, dump Leo Dancer. Now I can use Poly, fuse the 4 that are on my field for 1 Liger Dancer, and then I can Pentascale Lunalight Wolf, banish 4, and summon the second Liger Dancer. We can add back the Poly, not that we're going to need it, and yeah, my opponent realizing that I've not only summoned 1 Liger Dancer, but I'm about to drop the second one, is just going to concede and give us the win right here. Alright, there's our games. Let me show you the build, and then we'll finish off here. Okay, here's my build for Lunalight. It's very standard. I'm not really doing anything fancy or super unique here. Mostly just following the same strategy that has been working very well for Lunalight since the deck got its newest wave of support, and that is to spam Liger Dancer, a card that is still very hard for a lot of decks to out in this format. Now, of course, one of the biggest things that I always get asked in the comment section when I'm playing any given deck is, what is your out to Lunalight? And really a lot of time what they mean is, what is your out to Liger Dancer? Despite how effective Liger Dancer can be, I still don't necessarily think it's worth playing a specific out for Liger Dancer in your deck. That said, if you're not already planning on playing Kaijus or something like Underworld Goddess, I don't think it's going I don't think it's worth going out of your way to include them specifically for this one card. Because, right, think about it like this. Yeah, it'll be nice to have that card if you play against Lunalight, if they go first, if they full combo, if you don't have hand traps, if you have your out, like if you actually open your kaiju, or if you're even able to go into Underworld Goddess, if they only have one Liger Dancer, and if they don't already use the board wipe in order to stop that setup. Now, if you were counting, that is 7 times I said the word if, which is a pretty good indicator that it's not a scenario that's going to happen super often. That's why I don't feel compelled to play cards that specifically out Liger Dancer, and that's also why I don't feel compelled to play a lot of cards like evenly matched or like specifically going second cards, right? This is something I've always said since like I started playing Master Duel when the game first came out, but you're never gonna see me jamming random evenly matched and random lightning storms into a deck that's not already trying to go second just in case I go second, because that's gonna make my deck worse overall against every other scenario. And that's just for going second, something that in theory happens 50% of the time. For something like facing down a Liger Dancer that is so hyper specific, I'm not gonna make my deck worse against the other 98% of scenarios, which even that's being generous. I don't think you'll be staring down a Liger Dancer even 2% of games. I think closer to maybe 0.2% of the time. But there's no reason to make my deck worse in all those other scenarios just to maybe sometimes be better if I'm in the scenario where I'm staring down Liger Dancer. Again, if I'm jamming kaijus for a Liger Dancer, my opponent drops 2 of them, then my out that I've made my deck worse to include still doesn't do anything there. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot to think about when it comes to deck building and how to approach it, especially for best of 1 ranked ladder. And even though Liger Dancer is a very valid threat on ladder, I don't always feel compelled to play a card specifically for it. And that's a lot of the time because Lunalight's combo line is relatively fragile compared to some other decks in the current meta. Droll is particularly good against it, as you saw in that Centurion game. This deck really needs to be able to search a lot of cards in order to make its plays, and of course Droll and Lockbird is currently one of the most popular hand traps in the current meta. Now that said, I think that Lunalight is in a really good position right now. I don't think it's quite as good as some other decks like Yummy or Canine or Dracotale. When it comes to tier 2 decks, I think it's right up there at the top. It's really, really good. But definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. For the time being though, I think that's gonna do it. Thanks for watching me dive into some Lunalight action. Like I said, it can be a very difficult deck, and it's one that I'm still very much trying to learn, even after all these months. So anyway, that'll do it for now. Let's go ahead and move on to our outro so we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.